I'm Shane Plant, and I'm the director of this short. This short, when they're out of the tunnel, it was more about the subtleties. It wasn't about the overaction, it was about the small things. The way Nitro looks at her and the way Mouse looks at Nitro. The acknowledgement. But when it came to the Duke, it was a total contrast in style of animation. It should have been more, or it is, rather, it is more obnoxious, rambunctious, like side to side, really playing with the scale. More movement than they have until they reach the tunnel. Let's go into Harmony 22, and I can show you the characters myself. So this is Mouse. This is her build, relatively small. We kept the builds very light so this short could get done on time. Seeing as the schedule was a little bit of our adversary, this was the right way to do it. So with the Duke, he was the one primarily we had master controllers on, but we didn't go heavier than just a standard head side to side since he's just a bouncing head anyways. And the mouth was such an organic thing that we left it out in the master controllers. But as you can see here, we have all his head tilts that were very, very handy. Right on. And I know the animators loved it. Now I'm going to show you the board, the way we did the hoverboards for our main characters. And we'll start with Nitro. So this board, it was a very interesting system here, but it really, really paid off when it came to the action stuff. It was very easy. We just plugged in the PNGs, and wherever you move your icon here, it's going to help you find your in-betweens. That did in-between very well once they were all found, or set in the timeline. And it made the process of action scenes that much easier. The hardest character for us to animate was definitely the Duke. He proved to be a little more difficult than I initially thought. His mouth in particular, everybody nailed the action, everybody. Like I didn't have to do any revisions when it came to them exploring the space, but when it came to his lip sync in particular, it had to be dead on the money. And it had to be exaggerated in the right spots. And I found myself being a little more picky than I should have been. And it was definitely the biggest challenge of the whole thing. I was most proud of my crew because for a moment I was worried about the Duke when I started to realize how hard he would be to animate. But then my crew started spoiling me and I didn't have anything to worry about. I saw everyone who was animating on this all leveled up. And it was awesome. For artists new to animating in Toon Boom, I highly recommend that roughing everything out, everything. It's the easiest way from getting from point A to point B, and there's no wrong way to approach it. Do as many bad drawings as you want, as you can, and then you pick and choose the right path in between that. There was a challenge that has always eluded me, and since we were shooting for the moon anyways, because this is a pretty ambitious short, I have never scored something before. And I've never gotten a chance to write my guitar to something rather than write your guitar and then animate to something. I've never gotten to write music on top of something, and this was the biggest challenge for me. And it was way harder than I ever would have thought. I think people were being nice when they're like, yeah, it sounds awesome. It didn't. It sounded like garbage, but it was enough to keep the tempo on, everything cut to it. And then once that was set in place, it was no problem because I knew exactly when the scenes were going to cut. I know when that's going to start. I know when that stops. Let's just write a riff or a lead to that. And it was very simple. Some of the drawings are a little questionable, I must say, but there was enough there that was the plan of attack. Don't deviate from the sound. Hit the accents right when the cymbal hits, because that was the mark when the scene changes. And nobody messed with it, and it was, like I said before, I got spoiled. I didn't have to do much revisions at all. Since this short is 2 locations, I knew that the start was always going to be painted in Toon Boom Harmony 22. The second part of the short, which was all the action, we knew that had to be fast-paced and it'd be much easier to do in CG. And then once we started putting the comp in over the animation that was already done on the CG, it really started to come together. I would love to show you what the Bouquet Blur and the line boil can do in Harmony Toon Boom 22. So this is it without it, with no comp. This is the regular scene, and when rendered, you'll see what the Bouquet Blur does to the BG in particular. It really adds a major cinematic feel to this. Oh yeah. And the line boil as well. Line Boil is what we use when we really want to achieve that hand-drawn look. It's great. It modulates the texture in a way that gives it still but not still. It keeps the line alive, especially when there's a vector or any kind of texture on it. Just it gives it a little more feeling of liveliness to really enhance that scene, especially when it's a close-up. The most challenging was definitely the ones at the top, when they were outside. The short that I did before this provided me with enough experience that I could handle the dark parts and definitely how to light the characters, but when it came to a whole crowd and a single light source and someone who was acting within the scene, within a TV, who was reflecting his own light, that's when it became a problem. And it took way longer than I thought. Having everything in the Toon Boom Harmony 22 package just made dealing with the entire pipeline that much easier. When you can just do a new version and almost clear out everything, flatten it, and do comp right on top of that, all the way to your final export, it's that much easier. I definitely learned some new things in Toon Boom Harmony 22 working on this short. I learned that all these new features are great, and I really also, on my personal part, I learned how to treat a light source way better. The new tools that you guys have in there just made it very easy and quick to see, like, is that light gonna work? I know that light source is there, let's try it over there. All it is a shift of a peg, and it's like instant results. And I learned the value of a light source behind a character. I'm Shane Plante, and I really appreciate you tuning in. Heavy metal is the law, and I hope you enjoy this short.